Do you know just how high Yao Lao's status has risen in the Douqi domain world? Now, even as merely a Dousheng, he stands at the very forefront of all Heaven's supreme experts. Continuing from before, a special lower plane space. What do you mean by special? Hearing Xiao Yan's second request, Dan Yu asked in confusion. What I mean is, a lower plane space where time flows differently. Xiao Yan explained. Preferably one where time flows at least 10 times slower than in the great 1,000 world number. Upon hearing this, Dan Yu almost immediately replied, among the 376 lower plane spaces currently controlled by the Dan Shen clan, only 6 have a time flow differing from the Great Thousand World by more than 1/3. Of those 2 are actually faster than the Great Thousand World. So in reality, only 4 spaces meet your requirement. One of them is called the Nine Valleys Realm, where time flows nearly 6 times slower than in the Great Thousand World, and its size spans hundreds of thousands of li. It is already a medium-level, lower plane. Then I'll use the Nine Valleys Realm. After hearing Dan Yu's explanation, Xiao Yan nodded. Seeing this, Dan Yu smiled. Haha, you're quite clever. You plan to stretch the remaining half-year into 3 years of usable time. Besides these 2 requirements, is there anything else you need? For now, no. Many thanks to the Dan Shen clan for your assistance. Then Elder Dan Qiong will take you to the teleportation array leading to the Nine Valleys Realm. Xiao Yan nodded. Under Dan Yu's gaze, Xiao Yan followed Dan Qiong and flew toward another region of the sky. This was a lower plane space forgotten within the dark void, tens of thousands of years ago. When the Dan Shen clan reclaimed this place from a branch of the extraterrestrial race, it had already become a truly barren world. All life that once existed here had long been completely slaughtered. Although the Dan Shen clan later infused spiritual power into it, even after tens of thousands of years, no complex life forms had emerged. Thus, the value of this place lay solely in cultivating high-grade medicinal ingredients. This was the Nine Valleys Realm. At this moment, Xiao Yan had already been here for 2 days. During these 2 days, he did not immediately study the Million Medicinal Compendium. Instead, he conducted a thorough survey of the environment. According to Elder Dan Qiong, this space was called the Nine Valleys Realm because, after being ravaged by the extraterrestrial race long ago, almost all symbolic traces of this world had been erased. But one thing remained. A massive stone monument. This monument stood about 100,000 zhang tall, now erected at the center of the continent. Upon it were engraved 2 ancient and enormous characters, 9 valleys. Perhaps this was the final record of this world. The Dan Shen clan did not know whether 9 valleys referred to a powerful sect that once existed here, or an alliance that made a final stand against the extraterrestrial race. But since this monument was the only thing left behind, this world was simply named the Nine Valleys Realm. At this moment, Xiao Yan gazed at the colossal monument. He could sense a faint spiritual energy emanating from it. This indicated it was not ordinary stone but an artifact. Judging by its fluctuations, its level was no inferior to a divine artifact of the Great Thousand World. Xiao Yan moved and appeared above the monument. With a flip of his palm, the jade slip he obtained from Dan Yu appeared. Then he crushed it directly. Instantly, information about countless medicinal ingredients flooded into his mind like a torrent. Shangyuan grass. 5th grade medicinal ingredient. Grows on mountain peaks rich in spiritual energy. It absorbs the spiritual energy within a 10-li radius and transforms it into essence-rich medicinal sap beneficial to cultivation. Heavenly spirit fruit. 7th grade medicinal ingredient. Endless information poured into Xiao Yan's consciousness. At this speed, within tens of minutes, Xiao Yan had already grasped a large portion. If he maintained this pace, within half a year, he would fully comprehend the information of millions of medicinal ingredients. Only then could he truly begin the true purpose of this seclusion. Pill refinement. But what Xiao Yan sought was not ordinary refinement. He did not adopt the methods of the Dan God clan. nor did he follow any existing alchemical system within the Great Thousand world, because from the very beginning, he had already made up his mind. He would walk his own path. Xiao intended to create entirely new pills forged not from tradition, but from his own comprehension of flame soul and power. If he merely used the methods of others, then no matter how refined, no matter how flawless, he would simply be replicating what had already existed, an imitation, a shadow. And Xiao had never been someone who walked in another's shadow. Even perfection held no meaning to him if it was borrowed, because deep down he understood one truth: creation was the only path forward, the only way to surpass, the only way to stand above all. This realization had long taken root in his heart, from the very moment he decided to step onto the stage of the 10,000 pill gathering. That was not merely a competition, it was a proving ground for those who dared to challenge the limits of alchemy itself. And Xiao intended to redefine those limits. Time passed in silence. Within the closed space of his seclusion, there was no sun, no moon, only endless cycles of refinement, failure, and rebirth. Flames rose and fell, spiritual power surged and receded, and within that solitude something new was quietly being born. In the blink of an eye, half a year had passed in the outside world. At this moment, within the Douqi domain world, today was no ordinary day. The air itself seemed to tremble with anticipation, because the grand event that belonged to all alchemists across countless worlds was about to begin, the 10,000 pill gathering. This was no mere gathering. It was the highest stage of alchemy in the Great Thousand world, where geniuses, prodigies, monsters, and masters would converge from every corner of existence. Only the most extraordinary would stand at its peak, and only the truly unparalleled would leave their names behind. Half a year ago, before departing into seclusion, Xiao had entrusted Long Yuan with a mission, a task that would shape everything to come. He ordered him to gather experts from across the continent, to represent the Douqi domain, and step onto that grand stage, because Xiao knew, when he finally emerged, what awaited him would not just be a competition, but a storm, a collision of worlds, a battlefield, where alchemy itself would be pushed beyond its limits. And when that moment came, he would stand at the very center of it all. Now, half a year later, the top high-level alchemists gathered from across the Douqi domain world were fully prepared. At the center of the continent, in front of the Flame Emperor Hall, stood a massive white stone plaza. Dozens of flame pillars, each tens of thousands of jang tall, rose into the sky. This plaza was modeled after the one where the Flame Emperor once wielded his heavenly flames. It was known as Flame Emperor Plaza. The Flame Emperor Hall was now the absolute core of the entire world. Only clan leaders and great elders of major factions could enter, and the highest seat was always reserved for the Flame Emperor. As the sound of space tearing echoed, today, due to special circumstances, this normally forbidden land was opened. Tens of thousands gathered from across the world. Compared to half a year ago, cultivators now used spiritual power instead of Douqi. Half a year ago, after Xiao detonated billions of supreme spiritual liquid, with Long Yuan's timely intervention, everyone successfully completed spiritual power assimilation. More and more people gathered, but all eyes were fixed on the center of the plaza, where a massive multi-layered teleportation array had already been constructed. 8 young figures stood quietly upon it. They were personally selected by the Flame Emperor to participate in the pill gathering. In front of the plaza stood dozens of figures, including Long Yuan, a Heaven Supreme expert, elders of the ancient Void Dragon tribe Medusa Kai, Lin Xun Yao Lao, especially Yao Chen Yao Lao, the one who guided Xiao onto the path of alchemy, now stood at the very front of all. Even the clan leader Yao Tianming, a mid-grade emperor-tier alchemist, could only stand beside him. There was only one reason, and it was enough. Yao Chen had taught the Flame Emperor Xiao after 3 years of closed-door cultivation, Xiao Yan had emerged once more, no longer the same man who had entered. Seclusion. Within those silent years cut off from the world, he had pushed his understanding of alchemy and spiritual power to an entirely new realm, and now he revealed a technique that defied comprehension. Using tens of thousands of pills as his foundation, he had refined, condensed, and transformed them into tens of thousands of figures identical to himself. Each one carried his aura. Each one bore traces of his will. Each one was like a fragment of the Flame Emperor himself. It was no longer merely alchemy. It was creation. Picking up from where we left off, is that the teacher whom the Flame Emperor respects above all others, the Medicine Saint. A voice filled with awe quietly echoed across the vast Flame Emperor Plaza. The plaza stretched endlessly beneath the sky, its ancient stone radiating a faint warmth, as if still remembering the countless legends born upon it. At the forefront of an 8-person group stood a young man, his gaze fixed firmly on the elder ahead. That elder, with calm eyes and an unfathomable presence, was none other than Yao Lao. The young man exhaled slowly, unable to hide the admiration in his eyes. His name was Yao Xuan. Among the younger generation of the new Yao clan, his name stood at the very peak, a genius acknowledged by all, a prodigy whose brilliance seemed almost destined. As the leader of the team representing the new Yao clan in the upcoming 10,000 pill gathering, Yao Xuan carried not only responsibility but expectation. After undergoing spiritual power assimilation, his cultivation had surged forward dramatically, reaching the formidable level of a second-grade supreme. Such strength at his age was already enough to place him among the elite of the Great Thousand World. But even that was not what made him truly terrifying. What truly set Yao Xuan apart was his identity as an Emperor-tier alchemist. Even if only at the initial stage, that title alone was enough to shake countless factions. After all, in this world, strength could be matched. But a true alchemist of the Emperor tier, that was a treasure beyond measure. Standing there with the wind gently stirring his robes, Yao Xuan did not speak further. Yet within his calm expression, a spark of anticipation quietly ignited. Because he knew this journey to the 10,000 pill gathering would not merely be a competition. It would be a stage where monsters, geniuses, and legends would all collide. And somewhere on that stage stood a man who had already transcended them all, Xiao Yan, the Flame Emperor. However, what attracted the most attention was his identity as a low Emperor tier alchemist. The new Yao clan was formed by gathering branches of the Yao clan scattered across various Dao Qi fragmented worlds, a truly reconstituted Yao clan. And Yao Shen was the #1 among the younger generation of the new Yao clan. Whether in cultivation or alchemy, he was a once-in-10,000 years genius, and also the sole candidate for the next Yao clan leader. I've even spoken with Grandpa Yao Chen before. He's very kind. Of course, when it comes to alchemy, he becomes very strict. A young woman standing beside Yao Xuan said with a smile. Her name was Yao Anran. If Yao Xuan was the #1 among the younger generation of the new Yao clan, then she was the #1 among the females of that generation. After spiritual power assimilation, her strength was comparable to the 3rd divine soul realm. Meanwhile, her alchemy talent had already reached the high 9th grade. The new Yao clan was the only faction in the Do domain participating in the 10,000 pill gathering that possessed 2 slots. Among the remaining 6 slots, one was given to a young man of the Yan clan named Yan Dan. It was said that he was an anomaly in the alchemist world, because all the pills he refined were exclusively suited for fire-attributed cultivators. Standing beside Yao Anran was a woman in green robes named Ye Yan. She had originally been a free alchemist from the 2nd fragmented world. In terms of alchemy talent, Ye Yan could rank within the top 3 among the 8. Another participant was a young man from the new Xiao clan, named Xiao Xuanzi, as well as Tian Moluo, a member of the younger generation of the Tian clan from the 1st fragmented world. The final two had even more extraordinary identities. One was a young girl from the Xuan Kun clan named Bei Ming Ming. The other was named Zhu Feng, possessing the bloodlines of both the ancient Void Dragon tribe and the Heavenly Demon Phoenix clan. He had extraordinary talent in controlling both wood and fire attributes, a born alchemist. At this moment on the Flame Emperor Plaza, Yao Lao stood before everyone, originally planning to go to the 10,000 Pill continent to watch the 10,000 Pill gathering. He learned from Long Yuan that the event could not be observed. Although regretful, Yao Lao still decided to give a few words of advice before Yao Xuan and the others departed. Children, the 10,000 Pill gathering is only your starting point. And after you arrive there, the one who will lead you forward is Xiao Yan. You only need to remember one thing. Follow him. Yao Lao's words were extremely concise. As his voice echoed through heaven and earth, the teleportation array on the Flame Emperor Plaza began to activate. The 8 figures standing upon it gradually disappeared. Within the inner region of the Dan God clan, a massive teleportation array slowly rotated amid dazzling light. Half a year ago, Xiao Yan had departed from here to the Nine Valley realm. At this moment, 2 figures hovered in the air near the array, watching ahead as if waiting for something. The 10,000 Pill gathering would begin in 3 days, yet there was still no sign of Xiao Yan. Elder Dan Kyong, should we go in and take a look? One elder of the Dan God clan asked. The 2 of them had been waiting here for several days, their purpose being to guide Xiao Yan to the 10,000 Pill domain. No need to rush, let's wait a bit longer. Dan Kyung replied, then asked, I heard the Do domain sent 8 young people to meet him. Yes, they arrived a day ago and are currently waiting in the inner region for Xiao Yan to come out of seclusion. Just as they were speaking, suddenly, a surge of spiritual power fluctuations emerged from the teleportation array. A dazzling pillar of light shot up from its center. At the same time, Xiao Yan's aura finally spread out. However, the moment Dan Kyong sensed it, both of them frowned, because the aura coming from the light pillar was not just Xiao Yan alone. More precisely, there were tens of thousands of auras, each similar to Xiao Yan but differing in strength. In the next instant, countless figures tore through the air. Nearly 10,000 black-robed figures appeared, and their appearances were identical to Xiao Yan, like perfect replicas. Behind each of them was a massive black ruler. Then, under the gaze of Dan Qiong and the other elder, all those Xiao Yans simultaneously grasped their rulers and swept them forward. Destruction Flame Ruler! Realizing they had become targets, Dan Qiong grabbed the elder beside him and retreated rapidly. Elder Dan Qiong, what is going on? You retreat first. Dan Qiong suddenly stopped and shouted, with a flip of his palm. The spiritual power within tens of thousands of miles instantly boiled and surged toward him. In a moment, a colossal figure nearly 10,000 zhang tall formed behind him. It was a withered elderly giant, its appearance accompanied by a pervasive pill fragrance filling heaven and earth. In the distance, the retreating elder was shocked. He actually used the ancestral pill spirit body. This was one of the top 99 supreme Dharmakayas. As the Dharmakaya manifested, Dan Qiong rapidly formed complex seals. Within tens of thousands of zhang, countless pills condensed from the essence of all vegetation and life. Their number was immeasurable. When they gathered together, they formed a massive torrent spanning hundreds of thousands of zhang. Then, it collided head-on with the blazing tidal wave launched by the 10,000 Xiaoyans. The pill torrent and flame tide clashed in the sky. Only after dozens of breaths did the destructive energy finally subside. At that moment, a massive spatial crack suddenly appeared in the distant sky. The 10,000 Xiaoyans immediately entered it. In the end, only one figure remained, the real Xiaoyan. After sending his countless clones into the heaven tomb, Xiaoyan slowly withdrew his gaze. The flickering light in his eyes gradually faded, returning to its usual calm, yet beneath that calm was a depth as vast as an endless sea. He then stepped forward, walking directly toward Elder Dan Kyong. A faint smile appeared on his lips. Heh, my apologies for earlier. His tone was relaxed, almost casual, as if what had just happened was nothing more than a trivial display. I've heard that Elder Dan Kyong is a battle formation master. Xiao Yan's eyes gleamed slightly as he continued. So, from your perspective, how would you rate the army I just used? At those words, even Dan Qiong, who had seen countless geniuses, could not help but narrow his eyes slightly. That army Xiao Yan spoke of, it was no ordinary force. Those figures were not living beings, nor were they puppets. They were formed from tens of thousands of high-grade pills, each one refined to perfection, each one branded with Xiao Yan's own soul imprint. Every single movement, every single fluctuation of power was under his absolute control. No delay, no deviation, no error. With just a single thought, that entire army could erupt with terrifying might, as if it were a living entity with one unified will. Dan Kyung took a deep breath before answering. Although that wasn't an army driven by true battle intent, his gaze grew serious. The level of coordination you achieved is something even a fully trained battle formation army would find difficult to match. He paused slightly, then added in a low voice, the power it unleashed already rivals that of a true battle formation army. Silence lingered for a brief moment. Then, Dan Kyung's eyes sharpened. But you held back, didn't you? Xiao Yan did not reply. He simply smiled. A calm smile, yet within that calm was an unfathomable confidence. Seeing this, Dan Kyung let out a soft sigh and shook his head. Truly worthy of the one who became the Flame Emperor. He no longer pressed further. Some things did not need to be said out loud. The pill gathering is about to begin. Dan Kyung turned around, his voice becoming firm. Come with me. The people from the Dochi domain world are already waiting for you. As his voice fell, his figure suddenly moved. Shwa! Like a streak of light, Dan Kyung shot forward into the distant sky. Xiao Yan glanced once more at the direction of the Heaven Tomb. A faint flame flickered deep within his pupils, as if countless thoughts had already been calculated and settled. Then, without hesitation, he stepped forward. Boom! Space rippled slightly beneath his feet as his figure vanished instantly. Behind him, the Elder also followed closely. The three figures tore through space at incredible speed, heading straight toward the core region of the Dan Shen clan. And at this moment, throughout the entire Great Thousand World, countless powerful factions, ancient clans, and peak-level alchemists were all converging toward a single place, a gathering that would determine supremacy among alchemists, a stage where geniuses would clash, a battlefield without swords yet more intense than any war. The grandest event of alchemy, the 10,000 Pill Gathering, was about to begin.